The desert wind carried dust across the battlefield outside the city of Edessa. Broken shields lay scattered among fallen soldiers, and the once mighty Roman legion's armies that had conquered continents were collapsing into chaos. At the center of it all stood a man whose title once commanded the world, the Roman Emperor Valerian. But now he was surrounded. His guards were gone. His army had disintegrated. And before him rode the ruler of Persia, Shapur I, the king of kings. According to later accounts, Valerian would spend the rest of his life as a captive, humiliated by the very enemy Rome believed it could never be defeated by. This moment shattered a myth that had endured for centuries, the myth that Rome could never fall to the east. In recent years, archaeologists working among the ancient rock carvings at Naqsh-e Rostam have continued to study the massive reliefs carved into the cliff face during Shapur's reign. These carvings are not simple decorations. They are statements of power, propaganda carved directly into stone. In them, Shapur is shown towering over Roman emperors, one kneeling, another lying defeated beneath his horse. For centuries, historians debated whether these images were exaggerations, but modern research and reanalysis of Roman and Persian records increasingly confirm that Shapur's victories were very real. These reliefs appear to record not myth, but one of the most shocking reversals of power in ancient history. To understand how this happened, we must go back to the early 3rd century. At that time, the Middle East was dominated by the Parthian Empire, a powerful but fragmented state that had ruled Persia for centuries. The Parthian kings struggled to maintain control over their vast territory. Local nobles held enormous power, and central authority was weak. To the west, the Roman Empire watched carefully. Rome had fought the Parthians for generations, and although the frontier shifted back and forth, the balance between the two empires remained relatively stable. Then a new dynasty emerged from the Persian heartland, the Sassanians. The founder of this new empire was Naqsh-e I, a determined warlord who overthrew the Parthian king and declared himself the Shahanshah, the king of kings. His vision was very different from the loose Parthian system. Naqsh-e wanted a centralized and aggressive state that could challenge Rome directly. And when he died, that vision passed to his son, Shapur I. From the beginning, Shapur was not simply a warrior. He was a strategist who understood both military power and psychological warfare. He reorganized the Sasanian army, expanding its elite cavalry. These armored horsemen, known as cataphracts, were heavily protected and capable of devastating charges. Alongside them were skilled archers who could attack from a distance with deadly precision. But Shapur's military strength was not limited to cavalry. He also invested heavily in engineering siege machines, fortifications, and logistical planning that allowed his armies to operate deep inside enemy territory. Meanwhile, the Roman Empire was entering one of the most unstable periods in its history, the crisis of the 3rd century. Emperors rose and fell with alarming speed. Political assassinations, rebellions, and economic instability weakened the empire from within. Yet Roman propaganda continued to present the eastern frontier as secure. Shapur saw through the illusion. His first major clash with Rome came during the reign of Emperor Gordian III. The young emperor launched a campaign into Persian territory, hoping to restore Roman dominance in the region. But Shapur was ready. Near the city of Masich, his forces prepared a devastating trap. Roman legions advanced expecting a conventional battle. Instead, they faced a coordinated assault from Persian cavalry and archers. The terrain favored Shapur's mobile forces, and the Roman formations struggled to adapt. In the chaos of the fighting, Emperor Gordian III died. Though the exact circumstances remain mysterious, some Roman sources claim he died in battle. Others suggest he may have been assassinated by his own officers. Whatever the truth, the result was clear. The Roman army was shattered. The next emperor, Philip the Arab, had little choice but to negotiate. Shapur forced him into a humiliating peace treaty that required Rome to pay a massive indemnity. For the first time in generations, a Roman emperor had effectively become a tributary to Persia. But Shapur was not finished. These early victories taught him something crucial about his enemy. Roman power depended heavily on leadership. If the emperor was strong, the legions held together. But if the leadership faltered, Roman armies could collapse into confusion. Shapur began to study this weakness carefully. He would exploit it in a way the world had never seen. A decade later, another Roman emperor marched east Valerian. Unlike the young Gordian, Valerian was an experienced leader determined to restore Roman authority. He gathered a massive army and advanced into Mesopotamia. At first, the campaign seemed promising. Roman forces recaptured several cities and pushed deep into territory controlled by the Sassanians. But Shapur had already prepared his response. Rather than confronting the Romans head-on immediately, he used maneuver warfare. Persian forces harassed Roman supply lines, disrupted communications, and forced the legions to move constantly. Disease began spreading through the Roman camp. Morale weakened. Then Shapur struck. Near the city of Edessa into 60 CE, the Persian army encircled Valerian's forces. The Roman legions found themselves trapped. Their supplies were exhausted. Their soldiers were weakened by illness and exhaustion. Valerian attempted negotiations. It was a fatal mistake. Instead of accepting peace, Shapur seized the opportunity to eliminate the Roman command structure entirely. In a moment unprecedented in Roman history, the emperor himself was captured. For the first time ever, a Roman emperor had become a prisoner of war. The shock spread across the ancient world almost instantly. Rome had suffered defeats before, but this was different. Emperors were supposed to be untouchable symbols of Roman authority. Their capture shattered that illusion completely. But Shapur understood that the victory itself was only part of the story. What mattered even more was how the victory was remembered. According to several later accounts, Shapur used Valerian as a living symbol of Roman defeat. Some sources claim the emperor was forced to kneel before him whenever the Persian king mounted his horse, serving as a human footstool. Whether every detail of this story is accurate remains debated among historians, but its psychological effect was undeniable. Shapur ensured the humiliation would never be forgotten. Across the Persian Empire, enormous rock reliefs were carved into cliffs and mountainsides. These carvings showed Shapur triumphant on horseback. Beneath him knelt Roman emperors, one pleading, another defeated. The message was clear to anyone who traveled the great trade routes of the ancient world. Rome was not invincible. Merchants moving along the Silk Road, soldiers marching through frontier regions, diplomats crossing borders, all of them would see these images carved into the rock itself. The story of Roman defeat spread across continents. At the same time, Shapur began integrating captured Roman engineers and artisans into Sassanid cities. Rather than simply imprisoning them, he used their knowledge to strengthen his empire. They built bridges, irrigation systems, and monumental architecture. In effect, the skills of the Roman world were being used to expand the power of Persia. Shapur's campaigns did not destroy the Roman Empire, but they fundamentally changed the balance between East and West. Rome could no longer claim unquestioned dominance in the region. Instead, a new reality emerged, a world where two superpowers stood in opposition. The Sasanian Empire had become Rome's equal. Modern historians increasingly recognize that Shapur's reign marked a turning point in geopolitical history. His reforms strengthened the Sasanian state, creating administrative systems and border defenses that would influence governments for centuries. The concept of a centralized empire capable of mobilizing massive resources along strategic frontiers became a model for later states. And perhaps most importantly, Shapur demonstrated that power could be projected not only through armies, but through narrative. The rock carvings at Naqsh-e Rostam still stand today, nearly 2,000 years later. Travelers who visit them can see the moment frozen in stone. A Persian king towering above the defeated rulers of Rome. It is a reminder that history is often shaped not only by victories, but by the stories those victories create. Shapur I did more than win battles. He reshaped the psychological landscape of the ancient world through calculated brutality, strategic brilliance, and relentless propaganda. He forced one of the greatest empires in history to confront a truth it had never faced before: that Rome could be defeated. And from that moment forward, the world was no longer defined by a single dominant empire. Instead, it became a contest between rival powers, each struggling to shape the future of civilization. History is filled with moments like this moment, when a single decision, a single battle, or a single leader changes the balance of the world forever. If you want to uncover more forgotten stories of empires, warriors, and the powerful figures who reshaped history, subscribe to the channel and join the journey through time.